Welcome to WEHM All Access, the podcast where we bring you in-depth conversations with the people shaping life right here on Eastern Long Island. Now, every episode, we're going to dive into the stories, the music, and the voices that define our community, from local leaders to the musicians you know and love. And throughout the summer, we're catching up with many of the performers taking the stage at the Great South Bay Music Festival, getting the inside scoop on their music, their journey, and what they're bringing to Patchogue this year. On this episode of EHM All Access, it's a fun one. We're chatting with blues rock force Kelli Baker, who's bringing her raw, soulful sound to this year's Great South Bay Music Festival. She shares her Arizona roots, her New York journey, the artist who's shaped her voice over the years, and how she's built a career on honesty, grit, and really big-hearted storytelling. It's Kelli Baker on this episode of EHM All Access. Well, we're sitting down with all the different performers for this year's 2026 Great South Bay Music Festival, and so many different types of artists that are performing this year. They did a great job putting together this lineup, and one of them is Kelli Baker, and very cool to see. Of course, I've known about Kelli a little bit over the past year. Her name kept popping up on my feeds with some great music, and it's nice to have a chat and get to meet you now. Kelli, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Toasty today, but doing great.
It is, yes. Well, it's funny. Now, where are you from initially? You're from Arizona, right?
I'm originally from Arizona. Trying to think how long I've been in New York now. Maybe 14 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What?
But I keep my Arizona number.
Well, when did you move, and what made you move over to New York?
So I just always felt like I was supposed to be here. It was some kind of innate understanding that I had. And it was the year of Hurricane Sandy. So that's a whole story in itself. I could talk your ear off, but we'd have to block off an hour before I told you about that.
Well, I'm sure that was an interesting welcome to Long Island.
Yes, it was.
New York. My goodness. You're performing Sunday, July 26th at the Band Shell, the Five Towns College stage, Kelli Baker Band, and you've been doing a whole bunch of stuff. I was reading up. I guess, why don't we start, though, in the beginning, because you're from Arizona. Where did you kind of begin to start loving music?
Well, my mom was in the church choir and my grandmother was in the church choir. So, but by default, I was also in the church choir. So I started in the children's choir. And, then I loved music. I loved Madonna. But music has always been a part of my life. I've always been in choirs all throughout growing up and then in bands at different stages of my life, I went really serious in 2018 and now I'm here talking to you.
What kind of precipitated you loving the blues and kind of choosing that alley to go down?
That would be my dad, man. He introduced me to the blues. We got a chance to see B.B. King before he died, a couple of years before he died, which I'm really grateful for. But another thing that really brought it into focus was when I started playing again, I went from open mics to jams. And there's a really good jam in Oyster Bay called the Homestead. And everybody plays the blues because it's kind of like the universal language when you're going to these things that everybody understands. And I initially came from a rock background, which you'll really hear it a lot that I do. But so that big rock feel I like to throw into the blues, and it ended up being kind of a magical genre for me.
What did you you mentioned a couple of artists, but what did you grow up listening to, and what artists kind of were your introduction to the blues?
Well, my mom, if you want to talk about blues, the Bonnie Raitt's Nick of Time album, if you want to stick in that wheelhouse, that was a big one that was always playing in the kitchen. But I have such a wide musical taste that you can hear in everything that I do. That's why it's kind of hard to pin me down. So I really kind of operate in that blues rock, Americana, and there's grunge aspects to me too. I like digging it all in. So I might have been listening to some blues and then, listening to harder stuff like maybe some Nine Inch Nails, all kinds of stuff you'll find in what I do.
How old were you when you first started to perform?
I don't even remember. Up 3, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this a long time. When did you feel comfortable and kind of start developing your voice? Because it's such a great, unique sound that you have, a great vocal tone. When did you start realizing the power that had?
Oh, this is going to sound really dorky, but I was a cheerleader. And I had this big, boomy voice that would come out. And that's not even my musical voice, but I did have that power. And I was aware of that. So, the biggest kind of eye-opening experience for me was I was in this show choir and this woman came, she was a girl at the time from Nashville. She moved to our school and she put on this performance of Precious Lord, Take My Hand in this way that I just never heard anybody sing that before. And then I thought, I wonder if I could make my voice do that. And so I started practicing. And then, my voice is very different than it was even 3 or 4 years ago. It's an evolving thing. It's just like training a muscle anywhere else in your body that you learn more to nuances with, I guess, as you go.
When you sit down to write, what's your process like? Is it lyrics? Is it a melody? How does that kind of come together for you when you take the time to start creating a song?
I think usually melody and lyrics come to me, and it's interesting because if I sit down and I tell myself to do it, that's not when it's going to come. It kind of comes to me, and a lot of times it comes to me while I'm driving, or I'm doing something else passively. And I think that's the way that my brain operates. I'm a super ADHDer, so I always have to have a couple motors running. And I'll hum something or I'll sing it into my voice recorder so I don't forget it. Or it'll just come out of nowhere and I have to save it because sometimes if I lose that, I'll never think of it again for the rest of my entire life. So I have to make sure that I have to nail it down. And then what I'll do is when I am ready to write, I'll sit down and I'll listen to those and then I'll write changes around it and explore it. Yeah.
Now, you talk to a lot of artists. They talk about the voice notes on their iPhone, that they're always recording something and always kind of making sure that they don't forget it or they wake up in the middle of the night and record it very quickly. What's it like? You blend a lot of different lyrics together. It feels like a lot of personal experiences, but also kind of using some metaphors for it all. How do you decide what direction to go in that and kind of make songs not too personal, but is that tough for you to know how much of truth in your life to put into a song lyric?
I think that for me, one of my biggest hindrances was not being personal. I spent a lot of time wondering, God, if I say this, what will my mom think? Or what will my grandparents think? Or what will my daughter think? But you know what? Everybody's been spinning a lot of stories that are safe for a long time. And I think the further that I go, the more I allow myself to be more open. And if people align with that, then it's meant for you. And if it scares you or freaks you out, then, it's not. So I just made peace with that. So I have to really step into it. And I think showing my vulnerability is one of my greatest strengths as an artist. And I hope that people can see their own selves in that. And that's how we do it all together, man. I don't know.
Has it been tough? Well, I'm curious from an artist perspective. You have certain meanings behind songs, but you also, I'm sure, speak with some audience members and some fans, and they've got their own take. What's that like to see someone have a completely different meaning for one of your songs?
I mean, I feel like once I write it and I put it out, it kind of really doesn't belong to me anymore. And it's meant for the receiver, how they receive it. I love to see the different interpretations on it. There's a lot of songs that I have written that people might think it's about one thing, but it's about something else. And I leave that purposely. Like I use a lot of religious imagery in my lyrics just because that's, that itself leaves room for interpretation. And I like analyzing that because I grew up with such a heavy influence of that. And I liked seeing the different meanings that you can use with that, like Blood on the Nile, for instance. That's kind of my anthem song. And you would think that's about something that has to do with love, and it does not. And it's about rage, and using that, I use the plagues from the Bible as an example of how powerful that rage is. So, yeah.
You moved from Arizona, and in that background, where you grew up, to New York. What changed in you? What was different in New York that you kind of unlocked?
I came here I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. I came here with no idea about cost of living. By the time I got here, I got robbed.
Oh, gosh.
The Hurricane Sandy hit, there was no power for 2 weeks. And then I saw snowfall for the first time. I never saw snow actually come down until I moved here. And we had that nor'easter. So I really got smacked in the head.
Yeah, that was I just remember there we had a snowstorm a week later after Sandy.
Yeah. I had no coat or boots or anything like that. So I just was really thrown into it, man. And and for a while, I felt like I was running away from Arizona because I wanted to be here so badly. And now I really embrace it and I love it so much in a different way with all these perspectives. But I feel like in New York, there's this humming energy and there's like a pulse here that it encourages you to be at a certain level, and that can be good or bad. In Arizona, you're a little more relaxed. And I think finding a balance between the two is really important because you can't be running yourself ragged without the time to recharge your batteries. So I think that that was probably my biggest thing, is just really seeing how the world worked. When I moved here to New York, it took maybe a couple of years before I felt comfortable. Yeah. I was signed by Mike Zito to Gulf Coast Records. They're a fantastic blues label, and they have some of the best in the business. And we were I was introduced to Mike about, I guess, maybe almost 2 years ago now. And all of those people on that label have just been fantastic to me. And the blues world has been very embracing to me. And it's very exciting to have that people that believe in you and push you, because I've been, paying every dollar out of my pocket, taking every dollar I thought I'd make in my life and throwing it into this, and to have people that actually believe in you and the teams around me to bring this to fruition is very validating and relieving. You know what I mean?
I would imagine, And you've been down in Nashville doing a lot of different things. What's that been? What have you learned most from being around other musicians lately in different levels?
Oh, I just love to learn. I had coffee with a friend the other day, and he said, no matter what show you go to, especially the small ones, you can learn so much by intonation, by stage presence. I mean, that's what I really like to see. You could see I like to look at people's merchandise because I'm a big marketing person, and I want to create something that's engaging. I'm always just curious to see how I can learn. And I even have it in my Instagram bio that if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Like, I don't ever want to be the smartest person around, or think that I am anyway, around who I'm working with, or think I'm the most talented, because how do you grow? So I think there's always something to learn.
That's interesting that, you speak to a lot of bands, and I think it's tough for certain types of bands where it really they got into it for the music, to play guitar, and to get a lot of jam bands I've talked to have said, it's been tough learning the marketing aspect of it, of how to kind of do that side too. And it seems you've really embraced that.
Basically, I had a daughter at a young age, and I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do. I wanted to get back into music somehow. I loved the music aspect, but I also love business, and I was really good at business, and I was really good at marketing. So when my daughter grew up and I had a chance to get back into it, I feel like everybody has these little gifts. Every single person, you do, I do, that are weird. And if you look at them, they don't make any sense at all. And that's why I think people can't really understand who they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to do. And when it comes to me, one of the things I'm like, should I do business or should I do music? But when I realized that I could incorporate my love for marketing and branding and turn it into my work for myself, that's when it clicked for me. So marketing is something that I actually teach to other musicians as well that have a hard time with it. But for me, it's the same. It's just another extension of my creativity.
No, that's terrific, because it really is. It's so important these days, because there's so many artists out there. They're all kind of fighting for time and fighting for stage time, and it really does come down to making sure that you're marketing yourself. We're chatting with Kelli, who is a part of Kelli Baker, who's part of the Great South Bay Music Festival this year. A lot of different projects, and I know you've worked with a whole bunch of different musicians. What's that like? How do you choose to work with? And I know there's something Noe Sosha, I think is his name. What's that been like for you?
That's Noe Soha. We call him Noe So Hot.
What's that been like?
Like if you put his name phonetically into any kind of computer generation, that's how it interprets it. So we run with that.
Well, it's funny because I was afraid to say the name. Because
everybody is. It's Italian.
I'm going to butcher it. I know he's from Brooklyn, and I think he's from Italy. Actually, is what I read.
That's right.
What's it been like to work with him and kind of, because you said he's blind?
He's blind, and he is he's got a brain that just works on a different level, like I think, than most people's do when it comes to music. So as experimental and weird as you think you might get, his brain's going to take it someplace else. And he has just been fantastic to work with. He's a very dear friend. And he'll be at the show. And I've got Tom Curiano on drums, who's one of the best drummers I've ever worked with in my entire life, from New York City. And then PJ Lamariana on bass, who's my right-hand man.
That's great. Working with a whole bunch of people. And you've been doing this a while now in New York City and thereabouts. Where are you based on the island?
I'm based in Huntington. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming out, because I know you do a lot of shows on the East End, especially during the summer, and coming out to Patchogue at Shorefront Park for the Great South Bay Music Festival. You mentioned your early influences. Who's inspiring you right now? Different people that you might not expect that you're listening to.
Gosh, I don't know. It just changes all the time. I'd almost, you know what I really like? This is so weird, but I really have been digging just like film scores and composers. I'm a big soundtrack junkie. So, like Eric Whitacre, I like to listen to stuff like that when I'm driving, or Thomas Newman. I might just be listening. Like today, my daughter, she's a film director and an actor, and she's working on this film that's kind of 90s, 2000s based. And I created this whole playlist for her based on kind of that, that Luscious Jackson, Sneaker Pimps kind of energy, so it kind of just depends on the vibe that I'm going into, but I'm always down to discover new stuff. Yeah.
What do you think inspires your lyrics the most? Is it others? Is it books, films you've seen? It sounds like you really take it from everywhere in your personal experiences.
I've always been a big reader. So I like doing a lot of illustration with my words. I love a lot of poetry. So you'll see a lot, the coloring that I put around the statements that I say has to do with, just going to the library as a kid and just reading all the time and retaining that knowledge, and still working on my vocabulary and seeing what I don't know and putting it in somewhere.
Is it, I imagine your daughter is one of your biggest fans. And what's it like? Do you use her as I'd imagine you have, as far as a direct influence on your songs, and kind of what's the feedback been like from her? And what's that been like as a mom, performing and having your daughter see you on the stage? What's been that like for you?
You know what I really like to show her is that, and show everybody really, is because, like I said, I was a teen mom, and I did the best I could and raised her as best I could. And, when she was ready to graduate and I had a little more time for myself, that I could go back and just be the person that I always felt I've been inside. And there's just no expiration date on being who the hell you are in your boldest form. So I think that's something I like to express to her and is meaningful to her. You can just, and you don't need validation from anybody else to do it. You could just do it unapologetically. And she's a fantastic artist. And I see that kind of bravery. I feel like she's me on steroids. I can't wait to see the stuff that she comes up with, man. And I like just being, and, even my friend group surrounded with a lot of just really powerful, creative women. And that's what I want to show to her, set a good example that you can just be who you are. And, to my audience too, just, it's never too late to just, rip off the Band-Aid.
Well, I can't wait to see you live at the Great South Bay Music Festival. Have you performed there before?
It's my first time at Great South Bay, wow. But we're really excited. Yeah. How did
it come together to be featured and perform?
So that's my good friend Guy Bronya at All Music, who's just been, when I first started this talking about marketing, this was probably around COVID. And what I would do is I would tag these accounts that I thought might be interested in me or want to know about me. And, 6 months later, he's like, who the hell are you? Keep tagging me in your Instagram posts. And then I would come and hang around the store. And you know what? Guy is a great friend. He does great things with GNR events with Rick Eberle. He's been around for a long time, has a great store in Plainview. They're doing the Eisenhower Park series. They do all kinds of really impactful things that bring music to the island. So guys, that would be Guy. And he's the guy, and he's a friend. And he was lucky enough to just bring me on.
Oh, that's great. And I can't wait to see you live. That's happening at the Great South Bay Music Festival on the Bandshell stage, the Fivetown College stage, on Sunday, July 26th. Kelli Baker Band performing. That should be fun. And it's hot now, but it's even hotter out at Shorefront Park in Patchogue. Every year, it never fails. There's always, it's one of the hotter weekends of the year. And we can't wait to see you. So thank you so much for doing this. It's nice to get to know you a bit, and I'm sure we'll chat down the road. And I'm looking forward to seeing you perform at the festival. Thanks for sitting down.
Thanks for having me.